Should we let this, I'll explain all that when we get close to it. Let me just go through the review first. But basically, yes, I did notice I was short of 2 Minato arts. Craze Aura also increases the damage they dealt. I don't know what Craze Aura is. Alright, let me go through the review, then we'll talk more about this, guys. And then we'll have the raffle, okay? Alright, so, was this spoiler free? I want to say, yeah, you guys were so well behaved with keeping spoilers and stuff like that away from me, especially story spoilers, and thank you for that, because this is a game that's best experienced, I think, on its own. And I gotta be honest, maybe when I really think about it, having the mechanics abused for me or spoiled for me wouldn't have been as big of a problem, but I happen to be somewhat stubborn and like to be able to beat things myself and be able to go back and say, hey, yeah, I did that. I did this. I figured it out. So, I really appreciate you guys doing that for me. Someone could have just spoiled it and, you know, been done with it and told me how to do every boss fight and everything else, but you guys didn't do that, and I greatly appreciated it. Alright, so, music rating. I've already given a 10, Skies of Arcadia, and I'm questioning that now because of perfection, but oh my god, the music in this game was incredible. It was incredible. The instrumentals, the epic battle music, transitioning and mid-fights and everything else, it was just incredible. Every time I got to a new area, I couldn't wait to hear both the night and the day songs, and just sitting there and doing things. It was just... the exploration was fun because of the music, too, and because the world was just so great. But yeah, I can't give it anything other than a 10. I can't complain about anything on this OST. It has everything I would like. Everything. Graphics for the era. Okay, so I'm not 100% familiar with games that are on the Wii, but I'm going to say as for JRPGs for the Wii, it's pretty good. It might not be the best looking game that came out on the Wii, but come on, it didn't have very much competition in that regard. So I'm going to give it an 8 or a 9, but I think I'm going to stick with an 8. And this might be just lack of understanding in this regard. Alright, so the story. Story kept me interested the entire time. I enjoyed the characters, even characters I didn't use. Hold on a second. Even the characters that I didn't use, I really enjoyed. A lot of people complain about the voice acting. I didn't mind the voice acting at all. It sometimes got a little annoying in battles, especially if you had to do stuff a bunch of times. What are you guys laughing at? -2 for camera. Okay, never mind. Anyway, yeah, that's a mechanical thing. So, the story, I really have no complaints with it. The only problem with the story is that your progression, if you were to do, like, all the side quests and stuff like that, I would say some of the battles might have been really, really easy. And when you're, like, these epic cutscenes and stuff like that, it always bothers me a little bit to have, like, very easy battles in that, you know, that regard. So, for the story, I have to give it, you know, it's one of the best stories I've played against. There was no kiss at the end. You're absolutely right. We got to see one, but it was only when he was giving her mouth to mouth. And, you know, I might be a somewhat hopeless romantic in some regards. But god damn it, they should have kissed, okay? Alright, mechanics. Oh man, this is going to be fun. Okay, this game has a bit too much going on for my liking. There is just so much going on. You've got... what, 7 characters to use, each one of them with unique abilities, each one of them that levels by finding books in various places, each one of them that add other special status effects, each one of them requiring you to be on a certain side, behind, in front, around, whatever enemy you're fighting at any given time. Then that's just the arts themselves. Now let's talk about the leveling and how much... one level means absolutely everything, and the difference of whether being able to miss or actually hit an enemy. Then you have the fact that there's the skill trees that you can go through, and there's not a lot of that I feel is explained very well. Like, you just kind of have to mix and match and hope, but you have no real way of knowing that it works. I knew this stuff was working when I had the EXP buffs that I was getting from killing things, so I knew it was working then, but I didn't know how it translated between characters. The gems, there's, a shit ton of different gems, which I realized would be beneficial. I knew in each fight that if I used certain gems, it would be beneficial, but where do I go to get them? Where can I farm them to be able to make them high enough level to actually benefit me in any way, shape, or form? I understand what they were there for, but it's just the potential of getting them and farming them and doing all that other type of stuff and knowing what you were going to get. Then you have the gem crafting system, which is another whole thing that they tried to explain but was completely confusing to me, but I think I kind of started to get it after a while. There was a potential chance for getting higher quality gems for putting in lower ingredients based on putting like as close to 200% as possible. And the different characters mixed and matched and did different things based on like their affinity and things like that. I kind of understood the bare bones minimum of it, but that's about it. Then you had equipment, and there was unique equipment and equipment with slots, but most of the equipment you got as drops if you killed enemies throughout the areas. But then you could buy them. But then there was the ability to trade that I had no idea existed, which would have made doing quests 10 times freaking easier than going and trying to find all the items and stuff like that. Man, I wish I would have known about that. There is so much going on in this game. There's just so much that you have this incredible story, this incredible music, and then like you have these game mechanics, and then they just like took all these things and you've got this huge pile of stuff and it's awesome, and then you're like, that's enough stuff. I like this amount of stuff, and then this game, Xenoblade's like, no, I'm not done. Here, take more stuff and more and more and more and more and more and more until you can't see the top anymore. And I'm never going to reach that cliff at all of all the stuff that's in this game. I'm never going to do it. Even if I play the game again, there's still going to be stuff I do not find, stuff I do not experience, and stuff I do not understand. There is so much in this game. So much in this game. But that being said, I feel like the mechanics, there was just way too much for me, and I feel like if I were to try to recommend this game to someone else purely on the story and the music and everything else, it'd be very difficult to do, because I don't see many people finishing this game. I see a lot of people getting frustrated like I did. And maybe my patience isn't as good as I thought my patience was. But, God, some of the boss fights in this game were just terrible. You knew they were coming. You knew the game was going to throw them at you. It's like, what could the game do now to really dick me over? Well, we haven't fought something that does massive AoE damage and topples me all over yet and kills me in one shot. There'll probably be one of those. And I even called the boss that spawned a crap ton of stuff around it, gave itself a buff, and also was around freaking ether all over the place that your AI ran into constantly. Speaking of the AI, worst aspect of this entire game whatsoever. I think they dumbed it down a lot as to make it not OP, because if your characters really did chain in such a way that it was competent, or if they got on the sides and stuff like that to deal all the damage that they needed to do, if they healed when they needed to heal, I think the game would be a ton easier. Like, even being lower level would be a lot easier. So I'm going to say that I'm going to give the mechanics, I'm between a 6 and a 7. I don't think that the mechanics in this game are bad. I think there are flaws. I just think that it was a lack of understanding in my regard. But the combat system in and of itself was one of the most unique things I've ever seen. I'm going to give it a 7. Alright, so the grinding rating. Now this one's a little bit difficult, because everyone says, well, you can either fights on the way or do quests on the way or everything else, and then you won't have to grind at all. But that's still grinding, guys. If you're still going out of your way to fight extra things that you don't necessarily need to do, that's grinding. That's doing extra stuff. If you're going backtracking and finding items and doing quests and stuff like that, that is grinding. And I absolutely think that this game, to some extent, requires it. Maybe not on every boss, But if you even want to be able to hit a boss with anything, you have to be somewhere within, like, I think the lowest I was at any point in time is around 8 or 9 levels, and I was just barely able to hit enough to be able to take the boss down. So you need to grind. In some way, shape, or form, you need to do something to gain your levels. And I can almost guarantee that most people end the game around this level, if maybe slightly lower than what I do. But my actual thought process on this is most people end this game probably in the 80s to 85s, maybe even higher by the time they get to the end of the game. In which case, I think that the final boss would be more of a pushover than anything else, because I struggled mostly due to levels, more than anything else. So I'm going to say this is a pretty low one for me. And remember, the lower numbers for grinding are you know, you want a higher number for the grinding rating. So I'm going to say that, or wait, what was the opposite? I think I'm doing the opposite now of that. Shit. Yeah, I was level 77. Sorry, I've got it on my screen. I forgot you guys can't see it. Alright. So, the higher number here, I'm going to say that this was about, like, a 3. I'm going to put it right there with Saga Frontier. You had to grind. You had to grind a little bit too much for my liking, but at least I found some cheesy strats that were fun, and at least the game gives you some exploration stuff that you can do. There's multiple ways to level, but no matter what way you look at it, you are going to have to grind in some way, shape, or form. So if I were to give it an overall rating, and like I said, the grinding rating, I do not really attach to it. I kind of put that in my mechanical standpoint. This game was like an 8 or 9 for me. I mean, it was a really, really solid game. I really enjoyed it. I'd be hard-pressed to play it again purely because I don't want to fight some of those fights again. Even though I know about them now and I know I could prep for them and I would know what to do, I don't want to do some of those boss fights again. I just don't. I really don't. Ever. So I'm going to say, partially for the fact that I might not replay this game. You know, I might replay the game after a couple of years from now, but I'm not going to replay it anytime soon. I'm going to give it an 8. I'm going to give it a solid 8. You know, this is difficult. If I'm averaging my numbers together, it's basically an 8 and 8.5. And whenever I'm thinking about whether I should round up to 9 or just leave it as 8.5, because I'd like to keep mine solid, I've been rounding up. So I'm going to say that I thought that this game was a 9. And I think that the music and the story really push it up above a lot of the other stuff that we've played so far. It was a product of its time. It was an incredibly good game for its time. I can't think of any other great RPGs that came around that time. Alright guys, and now I'm going to set up a... Sorry. I'm going to set this up for you guys. I want you guys to vote. All of you that were here, all of you that weren't here, it doesn't matter. Take the time to vote a little bit for me and see what you think. Yeah, the boss fights, man. They were ridiculous. Yeah, I actually managed to level up during the fight, and I think it made it a little bit easier. I still think being around level 80 would have been better. And while you guys are doing that, replay value. You know what? I'm going to say yes, but not for a while. And today is what? I can't see because my mic's in the way. The 5th? And how long did it take us? It took us 63 hours, 4 minutes, and 35 seconds. Alright guys, what are we rating it here? let me turn the chat off for a moment so I can look at this properly and do all the votes and stuff. Alright. I'll even get a calculator out so I can average you guys properly. It's only fair, right? And Mai, thank you for the link. I really appreciate it. Alright, it looks like you guys all together are giving it about an 8.2, but someone else just voted an 8, which is going to push it up, so we're going to give it an 8.5. So you guys are very close to where I was with the game, which is good. We're pretty consistent with most of the games so far. Alright. Now it's time to get the raffle going. So hopefully you guys are excited for that. Have your games ready. All you're gonna have to do is type raffle in the chat. Just let me get it set up here. Alright, guys. Everyone has equal opportunity here. No one has more chances than anybody else. I'll give you guys a little bit of time. I always give about like 3 minutes or so. Nightbot, you do not have the chance of winning. Sorry. McCurdy gives himself 25% increase. If only he could. This music, though, so good, so fitting of this entire experience. Alright, guys. Thank you so much for sticking around for the raffle. I'm so glad we beat this today. It was a fantastic game. Alright. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good luck, guys. Rigged. Are you around, Ajax? The game is all yours to pick. Again, if anybody needs the list. Oops. Did I type it wrong? Or is it on cooldown? Oh, it just took forever. Congratulations, Ajax556. You are the winner of the raffle. You get to pick the next game that we play. And I will start getting this set up a little bit. But take your time. It's a pretty big list, so... Oops. I always do that. I always pick the wrong color. Alright. And just so everybody knows, the next game we're going to be playing is Blue Dragon, which was picked by Holdenian. And we got Ajax. 556. Xenogears. Alright. We got, oops. Xenogears. Picked by Ajax. 556. First time played? No. I have actually beaten that before. Alright. Well, there you guys have it. Next will be Blue Dragon, and then after Blue Dragon will be Xenogears, which was picked by our very own Ajax. I'll fix that later. Or now. So, while we got a little bit of time here, tell me, guys, what stupid mistakes did I make in this game? What things could I have done that would have made my life 10 times easier? What stuff did I make harder on bosses? I'd like to talk about that a little bit before I cut stream here and host somebody. Thanks for making that pick, Ajax. It's a very good game. A very, very good game. And from what I gather, I think they're supposed to all be in the same... Unleash the Heropon. Choosing Ricky. You know what? I was a little scared to use him. Not in the sense that, like, I was afraid he was going to eat me or something, but scared to use him in the sense that he had so much going on that I didn't know what abilities to pick for him. Lure, Hypnotize, Push Strat for leveling. You almost got it off, but you forgot the Lure. I actually used that later on, Cam. I used it quite a bit, actually. I found these salamander things that I could push off the edge. I got a decent amount of experience for it. I don't know if it was the most viable place to do that, but I did. So, what are we talking, like boss fights and stuff like that, though? Like, boss fights specifically that I struggled on, which would have been, like, really easy to do. You could have leveled up shield once more to counterattack his bazooka. Wow, so the shield, it has nothing to do with, like, your character's level or anything like that. It has to purely do with the shield level. And that's sad, because I leveled it up one more time before going into the final area, just to be safe, you know? I, like, put all of my points in that and speed. I had no idea that your Monado abilities had to be specific levels to be beneficial. I had no idea. And what was up with the final boss with being able to topple him sometimes, but not being able to topple him all the time? Yeah, it's interesting. I am kind of surprised that I was able to finish him without it, to be honest, because that bazooka ability was kicking my ass. Oh god. Alright. It's because when it has its aura on, you can't topple him. See, that's another thing that I couldn't really see very well, like during the boss fights, and especially that boss fight. How could you tell he had an aura on him? I was like trying to look at his HP and look what buffs and stuff like that were up there for him, and I saw like he was getting strength up buffs and defense buffs and things like that, and I was trying to purge those away. But other than that, I didn't see anything. But there was other enemies like that too. Alright. We'll go back to this screen for now. Just so you guys can see what I see. Alright. So, overall, I'm sure that you guys were cringing the entire time watching me play that, but I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And for those of you that were only here to watch Xenoblade Chronicles, I hope you stop around again. I have a huge list of JRPGs here that I'm going to play. I'm sure there's more on this list that you would like to see. And near the end of any game, there's always going to be another raffle, and you might be the person that wins. And again, let me say this, especially since a lot of you guys got to experience it today. If I ever seem frustrated or like I'm swearing and things like that, I'm frustrated with myself. Don't worry about it. I'm not angry at anybody or anything like that. I'm frustrated with little mistakes and stuff like that I make, or things that I did not think of. Or, you know, sometimes games can be slightly frustrating in general. But I'm never angry. I'm just frustrated. That's just how I get. I think a lot of us get like that in some way, shape, or form. We're gamers, after all. But let me find somebody to host here, you guys. And if we don't get to talk about everything Xenoblade Chronicles related today, we can definitely talk any other day about it. By the way, the one thing I never liked is that the two missing Minato arts are hidden behind a chain of side quests. One of them would have made your life much easier. Physical and ether damage reduced by 75%? $75%? Okay. What the hell? That's stupid. I don't know how I feel about that. Alright, guys. I'm gonna host a Swoogie here. He's doing some Final Fantasy VII all bosses runs. He's one of my favorite streamers. I spent a lot of time lurking there. Oh no. Music. Come back. Yeah, stop by, show him some love. I hope to see you guys next time. I will probably be here tomorrow, like I was going to be anyway, but with a new game. So, yeah, hope to see you then. Thanks again for all your guys' help. Thanks for sticking with me. Alright, guys, have a great start of your weekend. I will start mine much, much later today. I hope to see you tomorrow.